Good morning guys, it's James here from Sunseeker Southampton, and it's a very fresh, crisp start here at Sunseeker Poole for the departure of the 28 metre kudos up to the docks in Southampton today. So it was a 4:30 a.m. early start this morning down to Poole where the boat is here, and we're just getting ready to throw the lines off and we will be off. Notice a small selection of bits and pieces left on the dock here. So the boat is almost finished. We're going to have a look round today, and you have to imagine the last of what the saloon's going to look like. I am planning a trip down to the south of France to see her in her absolutely finished glory later on this autumn. But for now, we'll just have a look round today, enjoy the sea trial up to the docks, show you how the loading works onto a ship. And we can check out things like the hot tub up top and what have you. You can see now we've got the two units now back into the cockpit here. So we've got, this one's the wet bar with the sink, cool box. See, everything's stowed for shipping here, so we've got things holding doors shut, so you're not knowing what weather we're going to get in Biscay this time of year. Across this side, this is a storage locker. You've got the fire pump in here, and this is your third station control, so you've got throttles and thrusters tucked under the back there. So we have a look in the saloon here. Obviously a lot more in here than when we saw her earlier in the week. A lot of spare parts and bits and pieces wrapped up. So I say, to sort of show this in its full final glory is going to be difficult today, but I'll just try and talk you through this. You obviously see the fixed sofas are in now around the back. Everything's covered up for transport, and we've elected not to put the beautiful white carpets in through here, as obviously there's going to be lots of people in and out as we get the boat stowed on the ship and what have you. So we've got spare wall linings and the bed covers, and this is the top for a little buffet stool, cushions here for the base units. Over on the starboard side here, that's the top of the table that will be sitting in here. Two new sea bobs in their boxes with a fast charger here, and lots of furniture. So these are freestanding chairs for the aft cockpit, and also the dining chairs that are going to sit around the table in here. So we'll go through all of this once the boat's fully dressed up. So much easier for the captain to take a lot of his spare parts with him down on the boat rather than having to ship stuff separately. You really start to get a feel of the colours and finishes now. So we've still got things like the walls covered up in some places, other areas this is the sort of natural white colour that it's going to be. So certain areas are totally finished, like we can see in here, with new flooring. Forward cabin is finished other than the carpets on the floors. So we've got, these are all the exterior cushions stowed away. We've got new bedding in the bags here, all the wall panels, as we've seen already in these through the earlier videos. It's all pretty done in there. You see the new upholstery here. So this is the crew area come observation area up in the forward opposite. I'm trying to stand back so you can take that in. Opposite the helm here. So just putting the EPIRB box together with the hydrostatic release, which is part of the coding. So we just clamber over the boxes here. You can see the wall lining. Works really nicely with this white fabric they've used on all the ceiling panels. So these are now finished, much easier to see now. The stabilisers and what have you are done. Get a feeling of the space inside the cabin. So we've got the two twin berths here on the starboard side of the boat, and there's a sliding track in the floor here, so this bed can come aft to give you a double. So this is all now totally finished. They even put a little triangle on the loo paper, look at that. Scatter cushions are outside, you can see an array of those. And then over here, so port side of the boat, this is the This is the fixed double. So again, just carpets to put down in here. So bathrooms look really good. Love the stone, I have to say. Really nice splashbacks as well. Very good. Of course, the master cabin in here. So we've got the sideboard now back together. So this is the vanity station. There'll be a little stool to go in here. Again, everything covered up at the moment. Lovely big wardrobe here. Frames on the floor there for the carpets when they put those down in here. And the bed frame's now finished, so we've got the side panels in that were missing last time. New lamps in on the wall here. We've got the new table lamps as well. Very nice. And then this is more of the exterior cushions. And the right switch. And there's the master bathroom. Very nice. You wouldn't know this had literally just come off the production line. Constantly shutting the doors behind me as we go, as we'll be setting off to sea shortly. So back over the boxes. Try and show you the carpets. So the carpet is a absolutely ice white finish here, hence why the guys want to keep that until it gets down to France to finish off. What a glorious start to the day here in Poole. Look at that sky, wow. It's the 65th running of the Cowes Torquay offshore powerboat race today, so it's going to be quite a spectacle later, watching them charging through the Solent and off down west. We've obviously covered the exterior already on this, but I'm just going to have a wander up here. For the last time. Backdrop of those clouds, quite a stunning skyline. So stairs are now all finished. Those eagle-eyed of you the other day would have noticed the top one was missing. That's now in place. And here's your jacuzzi and the sunbed that we saw being craned on the other day. So it fills the deck pretty much from beam to beam up top here, with a nice little walkway around the back. So say it's off a 116 yacht, so it's tight squeeze up here, but really works on the back of this. I think for charter boats it's going to work really well. It's got big sun pads that sit on here, then that glass front jacuzzi there. And all the kit now finished up top there. Notice we left the domes white. That was a request of the captain. Just takes the heat out of the electronics that live inside those, a little bit more reliability. So just a little quick look to start with. One thing to note the other day is that we actually in the end elected to code her under MTA, so she's running Jersey flag, so we've actually gone with British MTA coding rather than the Malta coding, which I'd mentioned a couple of times during the build. The boat was originally on Jersey flag and the owners decided in the end that was what they would prefer to do. So join us back in a bit and we'll get underway through Poole Harbour and off up to Southampton. So we've just taken some fuel here at Corals next to the bridge, 1500 litres, which will get us up to Southampton, and then the boat's arriving into Genoa. She's got a trip then across, heading west to Gulf Juan on the French Riviera. So fuel consumption wise, typical cruising is about 12 knots on one of these for long distance journeys. Burns about 120 litres an hour. And then at a fast cruise, which is typically around 20 knots, will burn about 550 litres an hour. So captain's just bringing us away from the dock here. Got a big spring tide running underneath us, which is on its way out at the moment. So you can see him manoeuvring in the tide here. What I suspect he will do, once we're out far enough, he'll let the nose come round in the tide and he'll use that then just to automatically turn the boat round with a minimal fuss. Here we go, as I said, so he's just letting the tide bring us round. Makes the manoeuvre seem very straightforward, but actually it's quite complicated with that amount of tide flowing underneath us. So now pretty much broadside to the current. So we've got about 25 minutes run down the harbour, give a chance for everything to warm up, and we'll be out to open sea. We'll check back and get on our way. So here is the boat running up to the docks. It'd be rude not to show you a few different angles with the drone. So up high here with the 3/4 looks absolutely stunning, running about 20 knots. Of course, being an iconic British brand, couldn't not have a shot with the needles in the background there. So running again here about 22 knots. We ran the boat up through the rev range on our way up just to check, of course, everything was all good. Absolutely timeless design. You'd never know that the boat is now not one of the current models in production. You wouldn't believe how difficult it is to get a shot like this actually straight down on the yacht when she's running at speed. Quite hard to keep centred. And then just to finish off, a nice little close-up here. Obviously not got the cushions out at this stage, but still absolutely fantastic. Been an absolute pleasure to work on this one. So we've arrived at Southampton docks. Successful trip. We've got the drone up, so I hope you enjoyed a little look at her running there. So just going to spin around and you can see what we're loading onto today. You can see they're just putting a Sunseeker 76 yacht in. We'll be next on. So we've got a few on the ship. There's a 55 Manhattan at the back, 60 Predator here, various Princesses. There's a 68 Manhattan tucked in there, say the 76 up here, and then we'll sit alongside it here, and then there's 2 more yachts to squeeze in the front. So process takes a little bit of time as the ship itself has to ballast as they pick up. So they'll put water into the hull the other side as they first pick out the water, and that keeps everything level. And then as the lift comes up and the weight shifts across as the crane slews in over the deck, they then pump the water out so that they can keep everything nice and straight. So you can see the green on here, this is called the plimsoll line, so this is potentially the maximum depth the boat can float up to when it's fully laden. So you can see it's fairly well settled at the back, and it'll obviously sit further down as they put more yachts in to place. So what we do here is we come alongside and we'll temporarily tie up. They'll then give us the lashing straps, which are those yellow strops up there, which is how they position all the slings prior to the lift. You can see the boat here, like us, is also running fin stabilisers here, so you can see lots of obstructions under the water with that, and the shafts, props and the rudders at the back. So they have a diving team, which is what sits in the little orange boat there, will come and hold everything in position for us whilst we get set up, and then it may take them a couple of goes to get the weight correct. You might have to come up and down a few times before they're happy that they've got everything nice and level, and then we'll be lifting up. Not sure today whether they're using 1 or 2 cranes. I suspect they probably use just the forward crane here. So we've got a safe working load on that at 80 tonnes, so that should be fine for us. See, they obviously use spreader frames here to keep the strops out over the boat. They're all adjustable to suit. So there's a guy up on the deck. This is a 7-star operation today, so they have a load master that keeps everything in check, make sure he's happy with how the boat gets lifted up. It's almost like a mini survey on the boat. So we're just going to let them set the strops up and we'll be back in a bit. So you guys are just back from lunch and we're just about to start making ready for the slings. So you can see down on the foredeck there all the strops have been placed onto the cleats ready for the strap down. That 76 we saw earlier getting lifted out, there she is now strapped on the deck. And just getting this stern sling into position here. So the diver will be in the water, come around here. So the diving team getting ready here in the water, and what they'll do is basically they'll manoeuvre this sling into position, make sure it doesn't touch things like the stabilisers and the shafts and what have you. So they're actually using two cranes for the lift here. So we've got to see this crane for the stern, and then there's a separate crane for the bow up there forward, and they'll actually have to slew the gap between the 2 cranes themselves isn't big enough to take us straight in, so they'll have to slew us in at an angle, and you can see we're actually going in slightly forward of this Sargo here, which is the grey hull. A nice Manhattan 55 there in the water, waiting next lift on. So the back sling's now in position. They've just got the weight hanging on the back there. You can see the forward sling now just being lowered down. Put into position.
Yes, please. So here on this boat side.
See, she's coming up nice and level. First time, so doesn't look like we're going to have to do a reposition. Try and take in the space they've got to work with. So the boat's just a little bit too long for the gap. Shuffling to do in a minute. Now using the dive team down there in the rib, come round here, you'll be able to see the guy is giving the levels, obviously to keep her horizontal, because the cranes obviously lift independently. So guys are up in their little control towers up the top here, you can see both the cranes, and they're all on radios. comes up. A brief time lapse here as the boat comes up from a different angle. This is from the stern on the 55 Manhattan behind. It's like a dancing manoeuvre here, as they have to keep obviously the spreader bars away from the derrick. You can see the two of them there working in tandem with each other. See, it's quite tight now, so they've got to move the stern forward to clear the boat behind, and obviously rotate the bow around between the crane and the side of the 76, and try and come around for a slightly better angle here. So they haven't got a huge amount of room here. So the guys in the orange are basically the deck crew, so they travel with the ship. Then you have the loadmaster team in the blue t-shirts from 7 Star, and they're obviously managing the loading of the cargo today. So you can see how complicated this is, because they have to keep the slings obviously vertical all the time up here, which involves moving obviously the jib up and down, and then the actual block and tackle itself, which is holding the spreader up and down, and they have to do that on the 2 cranes at the same time. As you see, they bring the whole boat forward into position. A very, very small adjustments each time. And here's a time lapse set up on the deck, as you can see her coming up over the side, manoeuvred in through the cranes as we've seen throughout the rest of the video, as they get her straight in before they drop her onto the deck. So, just come around for a different angle here, so you can see now how tight it is on the crane, and not a lot of room here on the back end. Obviously got to pack them in, because they've still got 3 more to get up there on the bow in front of them. So what they do is they bring it down just off the deck, where they start stacking blocks, and then they have to put these metal cradles in underneath, which they then weld to the deck, and then they lash everything down nicely into position. You just come around, you can see how roughly how tight it'll be on the next one. So that's us down. So she's resting on the keel block. The guys are now getting the strops into position. We'll do the port side first. Move the cradles into position, and they'll start welding those to the deck. It'll take them a couple of hours to get her finally stowed, ready for the loading of the next one. So that's us done on this one. Next time we see her, we'll be down in the south of France, hopefully later on this autumn, when she'll be finally dressed up with all the carpets and what have you in, as soon as I'm able to make a trip overseas. We can see her in her final finished state. So I hope you enjoyed the full restoration with us here at Sunseeker. If you'd like to know any more about doing this to your own boat, or of course if you'd like to know more about Kudos and how she'll be chartering down in the Mediterranean next summer, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I can talk you through the options and put you in touch with the right people. So contact details as always is james@sunseekersouthampton.com, or mobile is +44 7747 686 587.